Welcome back. Now, nearly half of all children in Kenya do not live with both biological parents. That's data from the latest Kenya Demographic and Health Survey, or KDHS. Now, a single parenthood can be the result of divorce, separation, death of another parent, or it can be that the parents were never married in the first place. Now, for my guest in studio, Deborah Auko, she was raised by her father after her parents separated. Her book, Rough Silk, is an ode to fatherhood, which she hopes will change perceptions. And ahead of Father's Day tomorrow, she joins me to share her journey and her story. Thank you so much for coming in, Deborah.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, I love the cover.
Thank you.
Of the book. It's
I know.
An amazing title, which is where I want to begin. Why Rough Silk? Why did you choose that title?
I think, first of all, the one thing that we know about silk is that it's soft, it's beautiful, it's lustrous, it's top range when it comes to fabric. And I think that is what life is. Most of the times, it's beautiful. Whether you're looking at a sunset, whether you're looking at a newborn baby, life can be beautiful. And then now, when I talk about rough, I'm talking about when life now becomes difficult. I mean, the dichotomy of a life is all about ups and downs. There are moments when you're having it good, and there are moments when you're having it basically bad. That's the dichotomy of a human experience. And so Rough Silk is all about that. It's about when you're having it good and when you're having it, down. So life is all about happiness, but there's pain, there's suffering, there's loss, there's all that. So the Rough Silk, basically, as this book talks about, is just a life, what you would call a full life.
We were talking about this during the break, so this story is about your father, it's about you and the relationship that you have with him. And, we say it's having people who have good relationships with their father think about that. Do I appreciate him enough? Now, I don't know if I'll write a book. I have a great dad. But what motivated you to write the book?
Oh my God, I was motivated by three things. First of all, Victoria, there are 8 billion people in the world. If it were up to me, we would have 8 billion books. Because, I mean, anytime you meet anybody and you get to know them very well, you'll always realize that they all have a story. But people think that their stories do not matter, either because they're not famous, they're not popular. They think their stories do not matter. And so I decided to write an incredible story of an ordinary man, so that people may know that you don't have to be famous to write a book. As long as your story is compelling and somebody can learn from it, you need to write a book. The second thing is I needed to deal with the issue of our reading culture as Kenyans. We don't read. Somehow we just don't read. Like when there's raiding, there are riots all over, you'll find shops being, looted, but bookshops always survive. There's a reason for that. People don't read books. So, and this comes probably from our history. Our parents, we never saw them read. And usually children do what they see parents do. And so I think when our parents were growing up, most of the time what they were reading were curriculum books. The literature that they were given, books like A Tale of Two Cities, they didn't relate to these books, and so immediately after doing the exam, that is literature, that was it for them. And I remember even us, when we were children, the books that we were reading had to do with Cinderella, Hansel and Gretel.
Fairy tales.
Fairy tales. Things we cannot relate to, and all this was just about conditioning of whiteness and basically self-loathing of our own identity. So I've written this book because it's a Kenyan story. Whenever anybody picks it who is a Kenyan, will relate to it. Usually when you get a story that looks like you, it gives you that interest. The third thing is, obviously, I loved my dad. He was a great guy, and I thought the best way to honor him was to write a book about him.
I'm sure as you were writing it, a lot of memories came to mind. What stuck out for you as you were putting this story together?
It was painful. It was painful because this book is a book of survival. It has a lot of pain because of cancer. We lost him in 2016 for cancer, and so that's why we have this tribute. I think one of the things that I learned about writing a book is that it's therapy, because a lot of things came rushing. And I had to go to therapy. At some point, I had to stop writing for about 2 months. I started again, and then I had to stop. And so a lot of things came rushing. And so writing this book was like therapy to me. Yeah. And a lot of the people who have read this book, a lot of trauma has come to the surface. And so I think for me, it would be writing a book is therapy, reading a book is also therapy. Yeah.
Interesting. You know, I wonder, did this have you change your perspective on fatherhood? You know, of course, you had your experience with your dad, and so it's kind of biased to just that.
Yes.
But when you look through the whole scope of his life, and many people say you are a sum of the experiences that you've gone through, the decisions that you've made, did you understand him a bit better after this?
Yes, of course. I mean, the experiences we go through when we're children, we don't really take time to reflect upon. But I think now that we're adults and we are parents, when I was writing this book, of course, I reflected a lot about some of the decisions that he made. I forgave him. He was not a perfect father. By all means, when I celebrate him, I'm not saying he was a perfect father, and I don't think there are perfect fathers out here. It's just everybody trying to do what the best they can for the children. And I think I got to understand him better because now I'm an adult. I'm able to introspect and reflect a lot on his decisions. Also because I'm an adult and I have children, yeah.
So what would be a hook that you would tell people, this is why you need to pick up this book, this is why you need to get it?
Relatability.
Yeah.
Relatability. This is a Kenyan book. It's a story about a Kenyan. Most importantly, it is the extraordinary story of an ordinary man. When you go to the biography section of any bookshop, what you'll find is politicians, presidents, captains of industry. You will find people who have won gold. There is no story anywhere about the people who tried and failed. There's no story anywhere about the people who tried, failed, tried again. There's no story about the ordinary people. And so this book is very unique in that it talks about normal, ordinary challenges that people are going through out here.
I need to know about his early life, because you talk about that, you kind of start there. And it was around high school that he was married.
Yes,
Very early. You know, starting a family and starting life that young, you know, when you kind of saw that part of his life and his story, what did it tell you about him?
It explained a lot about the mistakes that he did later on in life and the decisions that he was making, because by the time I was in high school, he already had 2 wives. Wow. You know, you're still 16, and because he was playing football, he was a great footballer. Girls were being betrothed to him. He comes back home from holiday. He finds he already has a wife waiting for him. So he didn't really have time to process being a man, what it means to be a man. And so eventually, as he was going through it, it affected his subsequent marriages. Yeah. It affected his decision-making. It affected us as his children. Yeah, so it was crazy, really, and I've been able to understand what it meant. I mean, when I was 16 years old, definitely I could not have been, you know, a mother, you know, and he did that. And so it affected a lot of that because his growth was definitely affected.
What's a piece of advice that he gave you that kind of sustains you up until this day?
You can do anything. Don't ever say that you can't do something. You can do anything. You can be anything. Look at me. I'm seated at Citizen weekend on Father's Day discussing him. Yeah, you can be anything and you can do anything.
As we wrap up this conversation, you know, what would you want people who pick up the book, who read it, to walk away with? What are some of the take-homes?
I think the biggest take-home for me for this book has to do with anyone who reads this book needs to ask themselves a question, and especially if they're parents, what will my child write about me? What will my children write about me? If anybody reads this book and is not able to ask that question of themselves, then I think the cause is lost. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Deborah. All the best. And this is such a beautiful tribute.
Thank you so much.
A challenge to some of us who have great dads. Like I said, I don't know if I'll write a book, maybe write a song. You never know. But I think we need to honor our fathers a bit more.
They're not celebrated as much as they should, actually. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Happy Father's Day. Challenge accepted. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's take a short break here on Citizen Weekend. Here's what's coming up on Sports News.